episode 2 of the Chalanting Pod. So, actually, super funny story. I did record this episode already, but then the file immediately corrupted, and now I can't access any of the footage, so I have to re-record this, which does kind of suck because I do like that I do the podcast in like one take, and I kind of just like whatever flows out. I don't know. I feel like it's more authentic that way. It's more like real. But unfortunately, that is what happened. So I don't know. There were like no more episodes in 2024. You got to start filming in 2025. So that's what we're doing. So we're re-recording the episode. I hope it still feels authentic in a way. I'll definitely be like recreating certain things. But hopefully it's just giving me a chance to like maybe improve the episode. I thought it was really good, but like, you know, at least make it a bit more clear or like maybe make things more structured. We will see. But yes, episode 2, very exciting. I will say this podcast does make me very happy, even though yesterday I got so frustrated that I like rage quit for the rest of the day. We're going to start with how I'm doing. I don't know. I think it is, by the way, January 1st, 2025. I think with the new year, I feel pretty good. I think I feel hopeful, which is good. Except for yesterday when I was like raging, but like now I'm chilling. Now I think I'm chilling. But I think, yeah, a low from just like the past week since I filmed my last episode was that I was having a lot of surgery symptoms like nausea and like headaches and like throwing up. So that really sucked. And definitely just having more pain. But otherwise, I think I have been doing a bit better. I'm able to laugh now. That was a big thing that happened last week was I was like laughing. I was like, wait, it doesn't hurt. So now I can laugh, and I've been able to spend time with like friends, and all my friends are so funny. So I've been able to laugh. So that's definitely my high. I guess my other low was that my episode got deleted, but it's okay. Yeah, we're gonna go into the drink of the episode though, which is very exciting. I am remaking the drink, so I can't give like a live review, but I will, I will do my best to, I don't know, make it feel real. Okay, so I have my cup of ice, I have my straw, I have my calpico, which was already drank out of because my sister bought it, so she just opened it and drank it, and I was like, okay, never mind. So we're gonna do calpico and we're gonna do yakult. Okay, so we're gonna see. Well, I already know what this tastes like, but we're gonna make it on screen anyway. Okay, got ice. Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna make too much though, because there's only a little bit of yakult. And then we're going to shake this up. Okay. This is so bobarista of me, but without the boba. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's mix it together. Wow, it's just as fire as when I made it the first time yesterday. Yes, I have great ideas. So great that I do them twice. So yeah, this is the drink of the episode. We have our lychee calpico and our yakult. Going to the song of today's episode. It is Olivia Dean's The Hardest Part, specifically the jazz club version. I'll add it here, Editor Johanna. Normally I need you this time, I don't wanna go. And I think I chose the song because I was going down like a lot of media this past couple days. I think just because like, I don't know, I feel like I've been in a slump since recovery, but I was definitely in a slump, and I was just like going on YouTube trying to find like things to watch and listen to. And I found Olivia Dean's jazz, like Night at the Jazz Club video, and I've watched it before, but I decided to listen to it again because it's just like, I don't know, her voice is so calming, and I just felt like so relaxed listening to it. And I remember that like one of her songs, The Hardest Part, is like one of my favorite songs of hers. I will say, okay, I'm a fan, but I'm not like a super fan, like I don't know all her music, but The Hardest Part is definitely a song I really appreciate, especially since it's very like emotional and raw. And I think also relates to this episode because it's kind of about like changing as a person and moving on and whatnot. Highly suggest listening. It was really awesome. So yeah, it was definitely a song that I was listening to this week. Maybe not like most frequently, but definitely stuck out to me. I definitely missed. I definitely miss listening to music more so than not. Like I used to just wake up and listen to music and like listen to music on the Unitrans and during class and outside of class and whatnot. But I think ever since recovery, it's been harder to like stay on my music grind just because it's been kind of overstimulating. I don't know, and also because I'm not really going anywhere. But yes, The Hardest Part by Olivia Dean. Okay, we are going to begin this episode. So I am filming this on New Year's, which is maybe more topical than filming this on New Year's Eve. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the new year, specifically about New Year's resolutions and like glow up, self-reinvention, self-improvement, and all that jazz. Everything that comes with that. So just jumping right into it, Happy New Year. It is now 2025, now when we're filming this. I feel like I'm a pretty big New Year's person. As in, like, I definitely see the new year as, like, kind of like a fresh start, I do New Year's resolutions. I do, like, a whole, like, New Year's debrief, actually. So there's a YouTuber called Rowena Tsai, and she had this, like, whole video about New Year's reset, and she had this, like, Notion page where she, like, looks through her year and, like, goes through, like, different parts of her life and, like, sets up different goals and, like, systems and stuff. And I remember doing that in high school, and I think I did that, like, for at least a few years. I'm a very reflective, like, introspective person, very ENFJ of me, and I definitely like going through the year, at least to some extent. Like, I don't do a ton of end of year stuff, mostly just, like, at least a post or, like, a reflection of some sort of journal entry, looking at photos and whatnot. And I'm definitely very, very reflective, and I'm also, pretty big on resolutions. Like, I usually try to think of a lot of goals. I don't think of just, like, one goal, but I think of, like, a few in, like, different parts of my life. So, like, for 2024, my goals were to do physical therapy pretty consistently. So at the time, I didn't know I had hip dysplasia, but I was still dealing with, like, the effects of my sprained ankle from last year, and I was not very good at following PT in 2023. So I was like, okay, 2024, I'm going to be, like, really on it because I really want to get back to, like, usual activity. I want my, muscles to be stronger so that I'm not, like, so I have, like, I can get back to normal, basically, because my muscles were still not, like, back to normal, and I was still struggling with, like, balance and whatnot. And who knew that goal would transfer over to, like, my hip problems too. So, and now 2025, I'm going to have to do even more physical therapy, so I just can never escape physical therapy, I guess. Another one of my goals was to buy less stuff, because I think, like, in 2023, I definitely did a lot of impulsive spending, especially since I had, like, money, and I was like, oh, like, I'll just spend it. So I was definitely trying to spend a lot less in 2024 and, like, buy less stuff, and, like, I guess spend more money on experiences than anything. And I think I kind of followed through with that goal, and I definitely want to keep that going in 2025. I don't know what other goals that I have. Okay, my goal was also to be less busy. Every year, my goal is to be less busy and to have better mental health. And every year that, like, kind of doesn't happen, but I am trying. I really am trying. It's not a lack of trying. It's just, I don't know. I think, like, things happen. Something I did really want to talk about was about glow ups and rebranding with the new year. Obviously, there was, like, the whole new year, new you, like, rhetoric. Like, that's obviously very popular and well known. And there was, I think this has always been around, but I just remember seeing YouTube videos last year being, like, new you, new year, same you, or, like, kind of having, like, the commentary about not just reinventing yourself or, like, accepting yourself for who you are. So that's, like, kind of the topic I want to get into as well. But I want to talk about, like, the glow ups and, like, self reinvention aspect of it, like, being a new person and stuff, because I think, I don't remember when I started doing this, but I did start kind of, like, playing into that mindset more, and I think most clearly with 2024. One big thing about 2024 was that I went into the new year, and I literally told myself that I was going to rebrand, like a clothing brand. I was like, you're going to rebrand yourself, as if I'm, like, some company. But I really meant it because at the time it was the end of fall quarter freshman year, and I was looking at my college life, and it was going badly, and I was like, okay, I guess the reason I like don't fit in with people and that it's going so badly is because of my personality and the way that I look or the way that I dress or the way that I speak or my aesthetic. And I was really, really fixated on that and how I presented myself. And I kind of thought that that was a reason why I didn't make any friends, like why I didn't fit in at Davis. So I decided with like the new year that I would rebrand myself. Like I actually said that like to my family. I was like, hey guys, like 2024, I'm going to rebrand. And I did. Like I actually did do that. I did buy a lot of new clothes and try new makeup and try to dress different and act different and look different. And it was this whole project to try to make new friends and, I don't know, like fit in with people. And just like, I don't know, be a different person, like be a more acceptable person, right? And it's hard looking back on that because it was only a year ago. And I know where I was coming from. And part of me wants to say, like, oh, it worked. But at the same time, like, I mean, I am, semi-happy with the direction I decided to go. Like, I did decide to change, a lot of my interests and, like, let go of things that, I wasn't as interested in anymore. Sorry, I'm being kind of vague, but, like, I definitely did want to make changes to myself, like, genuinely, just because I felt like I was changing as a person in my interests. I don't think the intentions were right because they were coming out of, like, oh, like, you're not good enough sort of thing. But at the same time, like, I kind of realized, like, now at the end of the year, that while I did try new things and rebrand and, do all that stuff, I did also just genuinely try new things and do new experiences and kind of stretch myself in a way. And I think that is what allowed me to make more friends and find new community. And also just, like, being blessed with people in my life and then finding like university, for example, like those are all things that I wouldn't have foreseen to happen. But I also don't think they happen just because I decided to wear new clothes or act different or sound different. And I also think me making new friends wasn't based I I like to believe that the friends I made wasn't based off like a fake personality that I curated, but based on people actually like seeing me for myself and then, accepting that. Like at the end of the day, the people who like me in college don't like me because I rebranded or I decided to look a certain way or change myself. They like me and accept me for the same parts of myself that I've always had. And I think that helped me feel a lot better because it's like, oh, like the real me or like the I don't know, just like the core traits that I have, that's what people like, that's what people accept, and that's what people, are gonna look for, not like surface level things. I also think like what's interesting about me, oh wait, that was a crazy thing to say. I think like, I think what I know about myself is that I'm not very good at adapting and like changing myself. Even when I try to, it's kind of hard for me to kind of like leave there's like only a certain radius I can exit of like my like true self or something. And then I'll kind of just like go back to it just because I don't know, I'm just not very good at changing myself, I think. I feel like I'm a pretty static person in that way. So I think like even if when I do try to reinvent myself, I kind of just go back to how I usually am. And if I do make the changes, they are kind of like, it's not like a 180 change, it's like small changes. I mean, obviously if I look through the years, like I look a lot different. I am changing, right? I think what I was kind of talking about is like where those resolutions are coming from to also really matter. Like, I think with New Year's resolutions, a lot of rhetoric too is like, what type of resolutions are you making? Are they realistic? And like, where are they truly coming from, right? And I think that there's this difference between telling yourself to like do better, and that's kind of a very harsh, very I don't know, very like, what's the word? I feel like harsh is like the best way to put it, but kind of very like, oh, like get your act together. Like you've done so many things wrong. You've been such a mess. Like you did this and this wrong. You need to do better. You need to pull yourself up. And I feel like that was a mindset that I had going into 2024, where I was like, Johanna, like you need to like lock in and like do better in college, and like you need to change this and this and this. And then, so that's mindset number one. And then the mindset number two that I feel like is healthier and like more sustainable, because like it's not saying that you just like New Year's resolutions or self-improvement is like completely whack. Like it's not like it's completely bad, but when it comes from a place of like self-compassion and saying, hey, I want better for you instead of do better, I feel like that's definitely a healthier place to be at. And that's why I feel like we're New Year's resolutions and goals, when it comes from that, I feel like it is healthier. Like I think physical therapy, for example, was a goal that came from more of that self-compassion. It wasn't like, oh, you're not doing, okay, maybe a little bit of you're not doing good enough, but I think the general idea was not necessarily like to achieve something surface level, more just like, oh, I want my body to be more like, I want to be able to balance better and have more strength in my ankles so I don't re-injure myself, stuff like that. And I feel like that was pretty healthy. And then when I actually ended up going to the ARC to do my physical therapy, and that meant I would be also exercising more. It wasn't in like a you need to do like this and this more, like a harsh way of like exercise. It was a very, I think, balanced form of exercise that came more from like not about how I looked, but more about how it made me stronger and healthier. Not like, and not even like healthier, like, I don't know, like losing weight or whatever. Like I don't really care about that. It's more like, how can I feel like my muscles strengthen from doing physical therapy? And like, especially with my hip, it's like, how can I prepare myself for like surgery and stuff like that? So I feel like that distinction does matter. And I feel like I could see how the different goals I had based on that mindset kind of like changed how I approached it, and also like changed how I achieved those goals too. Because I think when you come from a place of do better, you're not doing good enough, it's really hard to feel like you're achieving things because you're always not hitting that mark or you're not good enough. And it is always coming from a place of harshness. But I feel like with compassion, every step of the way that you go through is an accomplishment, is an achievement, because you know that every step is going towards, you know, having like wanting better for yourself, right? And that self-compassion, I feel like, also fuels your goals so much better than harshness and being hard on yourself does. I think there's also something to say about like constant self-improvement too. And that's something that like I feel like I think about a lot, because I feel like with the New Year's resolutions and like that self-improvement mindset or that glow up mindset, it's like you are always self-improving, and like you're always have to be, you know, getting better, improving your skills, building your resume, making new friends or whatever it is. It always has to be like just going up, just constant productivity, constant self-improvement, right? And I think there's a few rhetorics, right? There are some people who are like, yes, you do always have to be self-improving, but it's not necessarily in the ways that is measured by the world. Or yes, you should always self-improve, but for the right reasons. Or even you don't always need to self-improve. And I'm going to talk about all three of those. So first about, you know, what you're self-improving. So I think, I'll talk about this more later too, but I think with New Year's resolutions and also just self-improvement in general, there's a lot of measurement about what it means to improve. So like materialistic things, for example, like job, career, resume, LinkedIn, whatever stuff, right? There's that where it's like kind of a more ambitious based gains in like leadership, or, you know, my career accomplishments or my job accomplishments or my extracurricular accomplishments, right? And also things that like kind of, I also mentioned this too, like weight loss or like being healthier are a lot of the goals that like the general population have as well. Or maybe it's things that are more relationally focused, like having a relationship or making more friends or joining more clubs or whatever. So there's a lot of like I don't want to say surface level, but like more materialistic goals that people want to achieve, right? And that people measure their self-improvement in. And I think what my take on that is that, first of all, a lot of those goals do come from societal standards that I feel like are not always fair to measure yourself through, like with the career things and with health. Like, I feel like those two are the ones that I always see and that are always defined by societal standards, right? Like, it's never like, oh, you're on your own path and like like, it's like always this rhetoric of you are falling behind, you're not hitting these marks at these ages. And same for health. I feel like the way health is measured as self-improvement is also very, very, um, what's the word? Like, there's only like one idea of what health looks like, I feel like, in dominant society, and it's also very like much based in diet culture and like the exercise industry. And like, I just hate it. It's so icky, like, especially when it's like trying to make you think you need to lose weight or to restrict yourself, or that you need to, like, I don't know, just do these very excessive things that are very unhealthy on your body and brain and don't account for nuance, and just overall support this idea of having to look a certain way and having to be a certain way to be healthy. I don't know, that always just like makes me really annoyed, especially since like the diet culture and exercise like industry makes so much money off of people. Same with like the cosmetic and like wellness and everything. Like, they make so much money off people's insecurities and like of selling this idea of like constant self-improvement based on these like societal measures. And it's just like, that pisses me off. Like, so yeah, like self-improvement based on those measures definitely makes me kind of like upset, and I wish that self-improvement was also measured in like ways that, well, not also, were just measured in ways that were more normal and like void of those standards, and kind of more of like your own personal growth and what you're proud of. Like, there's this trend on TikTok I think I saw where it's like, oh, I didn't accomplish much in like 2024, and then they like swipe to the next page, like, oh wait, but I did this and this and this. And like, some of them were funny, some of them were just like, oh, I didn't accomplish much, but I did like XYZ. Or I could say, oh, but I went to Molly Jasmine like 25 times or something. But like, there are also people who are recognizing maybe accomplishments that are maybe not celebrated by society as often, or seen as glamorous, or as like sparkly, or like valid, I guess. Things like, oh, I'm proud of myself for learning this new mindset, or I, accomplished, like, for example, overcoming one of my worst fears and doing XYZ, right? Um, so I think, and like, I've also already mentioned that like where self-improvement is coming from also really matters, right? So when it comes to self-improvement, it's better that the mindset is, how am I trying to want better for myself because I care about myself? Or am I just trying to like bootstrap my way into self-improvement and say like, you just need to like do better and get your shit together, and like, you're such a mess, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I think the first one is preferred because of how compassion is a much more sustainable and like kinder fuel for growth than being harsh will ever be, right? Because that harshness might get you to self-improvement, but it's not going to like heal you inside, those things that you still feel like are causing you issues are not going to be healed if you're always pushing yourself in such a like harsh way, and if your self-improvement is coming from a place of like self-hatred than it is from like self-compassion. Like, parents who push their children to do better, but in a way that's like, they're just trying to like show off their kid, or like they just look down on their kid, don't think they're good enough, that kid is not going to be really happy with those changes necessarily, or like the process of getting to that change isn't going to be great either, and there's going to be a lot of resentment and like pressure and shame, right? Instead of like, just, oh, I care about my child and I want them to succeed and I want the best for them, and then that using like that compassion and understanding to kind of like nurture their growth, right? So, and I think the last thing that I kind of want to touch on is like, do we even always need self-improvement, right? Let's say it is coming from a good place and it isn't measured by society standards. Like, do we always still need to be self-improving? I would say yes and no. The yes is like, it is ideal that we are self-improving every day, because I think that's just like, I think that's just how humans are. Like, humans do grow and change, like, all the time. That's very, very natural. And I think ideally it is nice to, go up. But I also say no, because there's also this pressure to just always be different and always be better. And that kind of implies that, like, how you are and how you exist naturally in the world isn't right. And that's something that I don't believe in, right? It's like, why can't you just exist naturally for who you are and have that be accepted? Even if it comes with a mess, even if it comes with, flaws or issues. Like, why is that not acceptable, right? And why, if you do have issues, that you always have to say, oh, but I'm working on it. Sometimes you're not at the place to work on it. And sometimes you can't work on it. And that's also, like, okay. And also, again, like, this is pretty cliche, but, like, growth isn't linear, right? Like, you can't always just be, like, X equals Y, right? Like, things will, like, and things might not go up all the time. They may go down and then go up or whatever, right? That's just like, that's just how things, naturally go. So why can't a human's natural state of growth and development be accepted too? Why does every year have to be better than the next? Why do you always have to be doing better than your old self, right? So there's definitely layers to it. And again, even if the growth is, coming from a good place and everything, it's like still having that compassion and understanding for yourself. That's like, you are existing just how you are in the world, and that's okay. And you don't always have to be self-improving, I saw another TikTok video. It was very sweet. It was new year, new you, or new year with the same you who got you through this past year with kindness and love, who got you through these challenges, who learned so much. I was like, wow, that was very sweet. And I feel like I love that sentiment, because it's saying that, hey, the you that you've already been, that person that you already are, is enough. And it's enough to bring you through the new year of challenges and of experiences. And, like, even though you grow, you're still, like, the core of your person is still worthy and good enough. And even though that can change and, like, get better, right? Just, like, every part of yourself is worthy of that love and acceptance. And it's not contingent on whether you're working on yourself or if you're always improving. Okay, something I wanted to add with, like, this constant self-improvement and whatnot is kind of like my experiences with ambition and kind of the shame around not always wanting to improve myself in that way. So I'll talk about this more in a future episode, but I grew up in the Bay Area, as a lot of you guys know, and in this very competitive, very, very competitive area. I literally live in Palo Alto, right? This is very competitive, very wealthy, and very, very ambitious and success focused. A lot of people and I think culture in this area speaks to being ambitious all the time, always rising the ranks, always pursuing something bigger, resume stacking, LinkedIn building, whatever, career stuff. And I remember in high school that I was a very ambitious girl because, and again, it didn't come from a good place either. It came from this mindset that I needed to have accomplishments to be accepted as a person, and that I needed to, rise the ranks to be worthy. And it's because in middle school, I would see people, accomplish that much, and I would feel so. And because in middle school, I didn't have a lot of friends and I didn't feel like I had a community or felt acceptance, I felt like I needed to reach that to be, like, good enough and to be cool or whatever. I don't know. So in high school, I was like, okay, Johanna, you're going to lock in. You are going to become that person, very ambitious, very goal-driven. You're going to achieve all this stuff and you're finally going to be accepted. You're finally going to be good enough. I think I've always still been an ambitious person anyway. Like, I would try hard in school and whatever. But I think it's, I don't know, I guess it's just because I think I liked school, kind of. I don't know. I actually don't know about my, like, elementary school brain, but I was a very ambitious person, basically. And I did act on it. I did rise through the ranks or whatever in, like, student council and, like, speech and debate and whatnot. And I remember I had, like, a plan for everything. It's like, by this year I'm going to do this, and this year I'm going to do this. And I think with high school and, like, college apps, it's like a lot of people have that plan. They're like, I want to do this by this year, and I want to apply to these colleges. I will say the things that I did were not necessarily because of college apps. they were just because I did like them and like because I did want to make an impact through whatever activities. And I think I didn't really care too much about college apps in the more traditional Palo Alto sense. I did care though because of like social acceptance and validation, but not really in like the Palo Alto success way, I guess. So I didn't like do those things just for college apps. I did do them because I also appreciated it. Anyway, the point was I was very ambitious, and it didn't really like quote unquote get me that like material success, if that makes sense. This is also a next episode thing, but when I got to college, I basically had a brand, like, I wasn't ambitious like that anymore, and I didn't want to be, because getting to college, I decided that I wanted something different from my life. Like, I didn't want that endless grind set. I wanted to live my life and, like, relax, and my goal for college was, I mean, obviously to get my education, but, like, socially I wanted to, or socially and mentally and physically, I wanted to relax, and I wanted to feel rest, and I wanted to have a balanced lifestyle, you know, and be happy. So that was my main goal. I didn't have like any other plans coming into it besides, you know, getting my degree and or double majoring. But I know a lot of people come to college, they like had their mindset on like what clubs they wanted to join, what extracurriculars they want to do, what things they want to do, career build. Maybe they're preparing for like certain tests like LSAT or MCAT, whatever. And they have like a plan for how they're going to, like, maybe they know they want to go to grad school, so they're working for grad school. I didn't have any of those plans at all. I had no idea what I wanted to do for my career still, and I came to college not knowing. And I didn't know what clubs I wanted to join. I didn't know what career things I wanted to do. I just wanted to like, I just jumped in. I was like, I was just going to explore. And I thought that was super normal. But I guess I met people who were already very planned out with what they were going to do. And like they knew they wanted to do internships, and they were already talking about internships about like fall quarter. And I was like freaking out because I was like, oh my God, like I thought we could just chill out a little bit. And I mean, obviously you can't. I think I just felt pressured to, because I was surrounded by people who were more ambitious than me. And I felt a lot of shame for not being ambitious like that anymore. Like a lot of shame. And I think it's because I felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to, which was that constant self-improvement and ambition. And I felt like I was behind. And I just felt like kind of washed up in a sense, because I had been so ambitious before, but now I wasn't. And I kind of felt shame and like, am I like not improve? Like, am I going down? Like, did I peak in high school? Like, like, am I just not doing it right anymore? And now I'm just like, all my time and energy is wasted. So I felt a lot of shame about that. And I still do feel behind. But, and also recognizing that point, it's like, or what I was saying before, it's like, yeah, I can also accept myself for the place that I am in, and I have improved in ways that I did want to, right? I was focusing on community and finding friends and building that world, and that is equally as important to me, if not more important to me than the career stuff. And I mean, I still do want to work on career stuff, and I still have been thinking about it. It's not like, I guess I was being kind of dramatic. It's not like I completely like give up on my future. Like, I still care, but not in the same way I did before, if that makes sense. But also maybe that's okay, because maybe that's what I wanted, right? Like, I literally came to college not wanting to live that grindset life anymore. So if anything, like, maybe I am actually just succeeding at accomplishing my personal goals instead of falling behind. At least I feel like that's a healthier way to think about things. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up ambition too, because I feel like that kind of falls in the same category as like self-improvement, but a very like Silicon Valley type of way. Okay, I think on the same note of like self-improvement is kind of this idea that I've, you know, I feel like I've thought about a lot, and also just like more recently, which is being emotions based versus solutions versus logic based. So it's like when you come to an issue, are you more emotions based and kind of more concerned with the emotions of it, or more solutions based and more concerned with the problem and the solving of it? So I think I kind of described this a little bit, but in I think the first video with my Enneagram, but I'm definitely, or not Enneagram, sorry, my MBTI. I'm definitely a much more solutions-based person. I think when it comes to issues, I usually first turn to the emotional side of it, and then I turn to the solution side of it. But I know other people, especially my family, are a lot more solutions-oriented and logic-oriented. And it's definitely something I felt very like ashamed about, I think, for a while in being more emotional. I think it's just because I think societally it is deemed more inferior just because I mean, I don't know. I think it is deemed more inferior just because of how our society is built, where logic and reason and solutions are kind of prized above emotion, which is seen as more frivolous or like not as important. Even thinking about things like humanities and STEM, right? Like which one is prized more, which one makes more money, which one gets more prestige, or even things like in high school, like speech versus debate, like debate being seen as like the harder one and speech is like the softer one, even though it's like, bruh, this is speech and debate. Like we're just doing public speaking. It doesn't, it, it's the same like extracurricular. If anything, we're kind of like glorified theater kids anyway. But anyway, the point is that there is kind of this like divide or like this hierarchy of like which one is seen as more acceptable or inferior or whatever. And I think especially when it comes to like at least talking with my family too, I always felt kind of bad about it because I would come to them with problems and more focus on the emotional side of it and more on the emotional support than the solving the problems. But I'd be kind of hit with like, oh, like you're never solving your problems or you're causing your own problems or, why aren't you taking the solutions? Why aren't you taking the feedback? And I always felt really ashamed about it because, yeah, why wasn't I doing that? And it's like made me think I was this very illogical, irrational person and therefore like inferior. And it's like that emotional side of me or that sensitive side of me is like something to be ashamed of or not something that's as accepted and just like something it was hard to like about myself. And I think I was having a conversation with a friend, I think it was last week, and it honestly like really changed my perspective on that too, because I like what I said, like I would always shame myself for not being a solutions-based person because it made me seem like I wasn't always improving, and there would be times where I wasn't in a place to improve and I wasn't at that I wasn't, I just wasn't ready for those solutions. And it made me feel like, okay, that just means I'm just will never solve my problems then, and there's something wrong with me. And like that rhetoric of always needing to self improve, I'm like, oh, I'm not like that, and I feel like ashamed, like kind of with the ambition too. But yeah, I had a conversation with a friend a few weeks ago or last week, and I was talking to her, and she's a more solutions based person, and I was bringing up some of my issues, and she would bring up solutions, and I was getting a little not like frustrated, but I was feeling bad about myself because I was hearing these solutions and I realized that again I wasn't ready to apply them yet. And I guess in that moment I wasn't really seeking solutions either. And I felt that sense of shame again. And I did bring up to her, I said, do you look down on me for being a more emotions based person, being a solutions based person? And I think I meant that with like full honesty, like it wasn't meant to like make her feel bad or anything. I think I just wanted her perspective on it. And she was like, "No, I actually don't think that at all." Because the way I see it, being a emotions-based person means that you have time to fully process the emotions that come with problems or that come with challenges, and then you are ready to take on the solutions. But that means that the next time you come across the same problem, you have emotionally processed enough where you can understand like inside how that made you feel, and you're more likely to avoid that in the future. So I think that's really admirable and that's actually really helpful. But with solution based, what can happen is that you just find when you like come across something uncomfortable or an issue, you just try to solve it and then like kind of just like run away in a sense with those solutions and not truly confront them and just keep like throwing solutions at the problem, right? But if you are doing that and not being attuned to your emotional processing, then you might just keep running to the same issues over and over again, right? Because you're not taking time to fully process it. And just to add to that, I was listening to this like mini podcast sort of thing from this like guy on Instagram. I don't remember his name, but I'll try to like add him in the description or something. But he was kind of talking about a similar issue of finding peace and finding clarity and kind of talking about how, I think he was talking about meditation specifically, but also like generally about life, that when you find your uncomfortable, when you like confront your uncomfortable emotions or issues or problems in your life, and your first thought is to run away from them, even either through problem solving, like just trying to solve the issue, right? Or by like pursuing coping mechanisms to like distract you, such as like substances or like doom scrolling or whatnot, then you're never truly just sitting with your emotions or your problems. And in that sense, you're not like allowing yourself to feel them or soften into those experiences. Like you're always running and you're not having stillness if you're always running, right? So what he was saying was that by accepting the emotions and the problems that just come and just taking them as they are at face value and kind of softening into that, you are having more clarity and more peace because you're just like letting them flow and you're allowing yourself to feel what you feel from that. And that actually can bring you peace because you're not always just running away whenever like some sort of stimulus comes your way. You are just accepting it and like feeling through it and letting it like flow, you know? Anyway, those two perspectives I feel like helped a lot, especially in like kind of understanding myself and also understanding like there is a lot of value in being emotions based instead of just solutions based. And obviously solutions are good. I'm not going to say that like you should never solve your problems, but sometimes those solutions, that the solution is to just have that emotional response and sit with those emotions. And then sometimes the solutions to like maybe the more practical part of it just comes later because you're not always at a place to receive that. And it's not always the time to just throw solutions at things. And like for me, I think I do care about solutions too. I think people who care about solutions care about their emotions. People who care about their emotions care about solutions, right? I do care about solutions. I think it's just like a matter of when and then also like how. And it's also just like letting it come to me when the time is right. The way I want to describe it, at least for me, is okay, we're going to set up a scenario, right? So let's say you're going through something really hard and it's like a problem in your life. Like for example, for me, it's like being really, really busy and stressed. And you're really low. You're over here. So if you're this low, if your energy and your like just general life like is this low, right? You're not necessarily in a place to fight your negative thoughts or to apply solutions or to, try to solve the problem. Right now, you're just sitting in that emotion and you're kind of, the way I would describe it, you're kind of in this pit, right? You're kind of in this pit and it's hard to pull yourself out of that pit by doing those things, right? By, solving your problem or fighting your negative thoughts or whatever. But if you nurture yourself and kind of take care of yourself and attune to your emotional needs, you can get to a place where you're not in that pit anymore or like not as deep in the pit, right? If you're up here. And now you have the capacity and like the resources and like the energy to apply those solutions and to, fight those negative thoughts or whatnot, right? But to get from here to here, you need to do that like emotional processing, emotional support, physical support, kind of just getting yourself to a better place so that you can solve the problems, as opposed to just using the problems to try to get yourself out of that pit. Because I think for me, when it comes to like the self-improvement and the solutions and the shame, if I'm down here, again, I'm not really at a place to apply that. And then I'm being told, or I tell myself, hey, you need to do this and this and this so you can get better, right? You can pull yourself out of this pit. But I instead know I can't do it. And then that makes me feel even worse because I'm like, oh crap, now I'm not even solving my own problem. Now I'm, making my problem worse. Then I just get deeper and deeper and deeper into that pit, right? And it's just a cycle of like, you're getting deep in the pit, you can't get out of it, you can't apply the solutions, you get even deeper, right? And it just keeps going. So it doesn't help. And then I end up just feeling like really bad at myself for not applying the solutions when I'm not at a place to do it. And I think that's kind of what I was able to finally understand about myself in a way I can explain and illustrate. And I think that also has made me feel a little bit less shame about it because I kind of realized it's just what I need to get to that point so that I can apply the solutions. And instead of just having the solutions immediately, I need to get myself, out of that pit with other things such as that emotional support or emotional processing so that I can make, those solutions a reality or whatnot. I think in the same vein as that, I wanted to talk about positivity and negativity too. Like, I definitely feel like, okay, it's kind of funny because I would say I'm a pretty positive person, as in, like, I feel like I'm pretty bubbly, or I like to talk to people, and I usually, at least try to be very encouraging to other people, very supportive, hopefully, like, cheering other people on. At least, okay, hopefully that's how I am. That's what I definitely aspire to do. But when it comes to myself, I can definitely be very, very negative, and I find it very hard to be positive with myself. I also feel like it's very easy for me to think about the negative things too. And it's always made me feel really bad because I feel like I'm a very ungrateful person, because I'll look at my life and I'll be like, no, like, a lot of things are going wrong. And even if I do recognize what's going right, I don't see it as, like, good enough, or I see it as just, like, outweighed or, like, stained by the negatives. It's like, okay, let's say this week, I did really well on my Asian American Studies comedy set, but I also had to deal with, like, a ton of insurance issues. I'm gonna choose the insurance issues over the comedy set because I'm like, okay, yeah, that comedy set was cool and all, but, like, it is tainted in comparison to all the insurance calls, so it doesn't matter anymore. I think the other thing is because I also, like, instantly flinch at kind of, like, the toxic positivity or, like, be more grateful sort of mindset, because it makes me feel a lot of shame and makes me be like, no, things are negative and I feel the negatives, so how can I even think of the positives? Or, like, it makes me feel like, oh, can I just not feel the negatives when I see the positives, or should I just, like, be more grateful myself into feeling better, And I think it's the same thing with that, like, what place am I at, right? And I think when I'm in a very negative place, it's hard to be like, well, think of the positives and be grateful, because then it just turns into a shame spiral where, like, you're not being grateful enough and you feel sad and you can't feel grateful and you can't see the positives, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. It is, I think, instead feeling those negatives and then addressing those emotional needs to get to a place where I can see the positives and then be more grateful. And I think I have seen myself do that, both the negative cycle and the positive, progression, where I do get to a place where I can feel like my emotional and physical needs are met, like I'm taking care of myself, and then I can, be at a place where I have the capacity to be like, wow, I'm very, very grateful. I can see the positives in my life, and I can start seeing things more accurately, as opposed to, like, if I'm in a negative space and trying to just, like, open my eyes to reality and open my eyes to the positives, and then, it doesn't have the same, it doesn't hit the same, it just feels more like a shame session where it's like, well, why are you feeling bad if all these good things are happening, but I think another thing that I learned too with negativity and positivity is I actually talked to a chaplain at the hospital, and they're, like, spiritual emotional support for patients, and we were talking about that negative positive outlook, and I was kind of describing my tendency for negativity, and she was talking about how our brains are attuned to be more negative because of survival, right? It's like you want to be more aware of the negative so that you don't put yourself in danger and that you can avoid mistakes. And with shame, it's also a survival thing, because it's also trying to help you avoid making the same mistakes again or doing something that would harm you in a more, like, maybe, like, interpersonal social way. And she was explaining that with shame, your brain literally, like, turns off your, like, dopamine so you feel really bad, and that is what is trying to help you, like, not make the same mistake again. And I think in understanding that function, like, how your brain does that and how you're kind of more wired for that, was definitely really helpful to learn, because first of all, it makes things a lot more neutral and kind of, like, now you understand why you do that. It's not like a personal thing. It's not like you are negative and, like, you are a more negative person, you're ungrateful. It's like your brain is more attuned to the negatives. Your brain is making you feel shame, and now you feel bad because it's, like, turning off dopamine, right? It's trying to make you not make the same mistake again. I also think it's interesting to realize that shame kind of turns off your dopamine, because it also means that you try to turn to other means to fill that gap, right? Like, when you feel shame, like turning to coping things, like maybe looking at your phone, or like, again, like substances or eating or other things to try to fill that gap. But when you recognize that that's what's happening, I feel like you're able to have more, not like control, but more like intention behind it. So it's like, oh, I feel shame right now. I can feel the dopamine like leaving, right? What can I do in this moment? And I think another thing in relation to that conversation was that I was kind of explaining how it's so hard to be positive because it feels so delusional. And it feels like if I'm being positive, I'm like deluding myself to the reality of things. And that is wrong. Like, I need to see the world for how it is and make a judgment based on that, or else I'm being delusional and wrong. And again, I think that's also a survival mechanism, right? Because if you see the world wrong, you're going to like act wrong, or you're not going to be able to protect yourself, right? And like, in my mind, I also just didn't want to embarrass myself, because it's like I didn't want to be so positive and be delusional and then I'm wrong, right? Like, I'm seeing the world so much better than it actually is. Like, that's embarrassing, right? Or if I'm seeing myself so much better than I actually am, that's also embarrassing. So, I kind of shunned that positivity, or like that positive voice, because I'm like, you're being delusional. Like, this sounds really stupid. But I think the way that I reframed that recently was, how like the negativity and the shame is for survival, right? It's like how to not make those same mistakes again, how to avoid those negativities so that you're okay. The positivity, instead of like delusion or like something excessive or frivolous or like, not seen as valid, can also be seen as something needed for that survival, right? Because am I actually happy like being stuck in this like shame spiral or negativity spiral? Like, is this actually helping me or serving me or helping me achieve any of my goals? Is it making me happier or more fulfilled as a person? No. But that positivity, it's instead of like delusion or like no purpose for it, and it's just like it's like hindering your survival and seeing the world as it is a survival thing, because without that positivity and fighting for that positivity, no one's advocating for you. No one's like looking out for your survival. So that positive voice is actually very crucial and very necessary, because it's like keeping you afloat, keeping you alive, and keeping you like caring for yourself, right? And I think it's kind of like what we were saying before with like, where your intentions are coming from for your self-improvement, right? Or for solutions. Is it that harsh voice of like, you're not doing enough and you need to get your act together? Or is it, I want better for you and I have compassion for you and I want things to improve for you, So I think that positive voice is actually what can be seen as very counterintuitive or unproductive or unnecessary. I think it's actually very necessary and very helpful. And it's actually what's going to fuel you to feel better, right? To get from here to here, so that you have the capacity to enact those solutions and to fight those negative thoughts and to feel grateful and to feel better. So yeah, I think that definitely kind of like blew my mind a bit more, and that's something I really, really want to incorporate more into my like thinking and my life. And I feel like that chaplain was really goated for the insight. I think the last thing I want to do with this video is definitely tie things back to society, as we do with this podcast. I did kind of touch on this a little bit with the New Year's resolutions, but I think the idea of that constant self-improvement is first definitely based on a lot of industries that try to prey on people's insecurities, and people's like shortcomings to make money off of them. Like, the prime example is like diet culture industry, exercise industry. Like, all of that is fake. Like, it sounds crazy to say that. Obviously, health is real, your wellness is real, but that idea of what they're trying to paint, of what the idea, like what health looks like, what happiness looks like, what your body should look like, all of that is fake. All of that is rooted in things like misogyny and like racism and fat phobia. And it's trying to create this idea of like what you need to achieve to be accepted or to be good enough, right? And because that is like a never ending thing, they can make so much money off of you and they can sell so many things to you, right? Like I'm not even joking about this. This is actually real. A lot of the food industry literally refuse to change things. Like, for example, like they refuse to make their ingredients better, or like stop adding these like very addictive ingredients, especially and like targeting children to make them addicted to like different foods. Like the food industry is super messed up, right? But instead of like holding them accountable to make foods better, right? They were like, wait, what if we just told people that they needed to exercise it off and not really care about food? Like that's a real industry move that was made. And now there's this whole industry about exercise and weight loss and whatever. And that is just to make even more money. You know, that so or like with dieting too. Like it's all a facade, and it's all to, you know, again, make money off of people, which is really, really, really messed up. And it doesn't even make people healthier. Like a lot of diet and exercise culture gives people eating disorders, makes people mentally unwell, doesn't actually get them healthier, especially since health is so, it's not just one idea. Health is so like nuanced and depends on each person, and it has been like misconstrued so much in media about how it's supposed to look like and what you're supposed to buy for it, or what how you're supposed to look like too is a big part of it, what you look like. But health looks so different with so many different people. And also the idea that you always need to be improving or be productive is also just like very capitalistic. I feel like that's pretty like self-explanatory too. Like always needing economic growth, always needing new innovations, always needing better and better and better is a very capitalist idea that also, you know, obviously is very harmful because it doesn't consider the humanity of people, and doesn't consider that, yeah, humans are natural beings that do grow all the time and change, but they're not always just like improving and producing. Like we are just natural people who just exist in the world. And if we're always trying to expect improvement and innovation and new invention and, you know, accomplishment, like that's not sustainable, that's not fair, that's not something that can be done. And it ends up creating this false expectation for people, or not false, an unfair expectation for people that leads to, you know, on very extreme levels exploitation, but on what things I described like shame. um Always shame, and shame in that sense works for capitalism because it's it's a pressure and a fuel that is constantly trying to reach those ideals, right? Like you can literally never relax, you can never rest if you always feel so much shame and pressure. Like when you stop producing, you're like, damn, like I'm not producing anymore, like this sucks. um and because it's never ending, it's like a trap, right? Because with a lot of like societal measurement, you can never like truly like reach it. It's like you never reach like the enough. Like there's always more you could be doing. um and I also mentioned this too, but like what does better mean? Like how is self-improvement measured can also be based on very like worldly standards that are, again, um I feel like not fair or like manufactured, or just more focused on what you can produce and what you can be used for, or how, you know, you're contributing to capitalism or society, right? Like a lot of things based on work, it's like how much money are you making, or like how many accomplishments are you, you know, achieving, and that kind of is interpreted as like career wise, right, or extracurricular wise. It's like how useful are you to society, how smart are you, or, you know, how good are you at producing certain things. um with health, again, it's reaching this ideal, this fake ideal that serves industries. um and I feel like, yeah, in the way it's measured, it doesn't really account for actual like wellness. Like, you know, were you feeling peace, were you feeling fulfilled, were you healing inside, right? Like those things aren't really deemed as important in like dominant culture, right? um I think it's the same thing with like that emotion and solution based personality too, where it's like a lot of things do not consider people's emotional like sensitivities or emotional needs. And just, I don't know, obviously things are in the, I don't know, whatever real world, I would just argue in a capitalist world, very cold and very harsh, and they don't consider like that human aspect, that of not always growing linearly, not always healing linearly, um not always having the space for those solutions, right? And I think especially like I also just want to talk about, especially with like, I think misogyny too, and like how women are perceived, there is a lot of pressure to always be not like relevant, but to be attractive and rebrand, and like that whole glow up thing, right? It's like or like, wait, like looks maxing, right? like that, all of that, right, is, I feel like, pretty misogynistic too, because like, how do you look right enough or look acceptable enough, and all that translates to, or preying on people's insecurities and, needs for belonging and acceptance. And like, notice how none of that focuses on like, accepting people for how they are, or community, or friendship, right? Those things aren't being considered when it comes to that idea of, wanting like to belong, or like wanting acceptance. The path that you're told, in a capitalist standpoint, is that you need to work for your acceptance, as opposed to you can find acceptance through building the community and friendship. And I think like, or just like knowing that you are enough for who you are, right? So I think that's definitely something I wanted to bring up with this episode, because I feel like a lot of these things are very very much perpetuated by the world that we live in, and those things can change too, right? Like, a lot of the reforms that people want to make governmentally are changes that are not as, or changes that are fighting that extractiveness, and that that pressure to like constantly be doing something. That is why, labor unions exist, right? To ensure that people who are doing this hard labor, or people who are, lower working class, are able to have their humanity be accounted for. Or even like with AI and tech, like, why do we need to keep improving? It's actually not, it's not even helping anyone. And it's like this ideal that we just need to keep innovating and innovating, when what we have is already more than enough. And with the environment too, it's like, how much do we need to extract from this world for this ideal of improvement or productivity or economic growth, when what's more important is preserving like these very, very precious natural resources, or protecting the earth, or that healing, right? So I think all of those things do tie in with each other. And also, whenever I cut this part, I hope I'm making sense, because I'm always at like 1 hour of talking, and I feel like my ideas are not very cohesive. So I really hope that this part makes sense. But yeah, I always feel like it's important to recognize the societal aspect of it, and how it can impact, not only personal life, but the world overall. So yeah, that comes to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for following along. Definitely sucks that I had to, re-record this, but I think I was able to bring in some, new insights, make things a bit more structured, hopefully more clear, I hope. But I'm planning to do very little editing on this because I'm very tired, and because, we keep it real here on Chalanting. I once again didn't finish my drink, so I'm going to take a sip. But yeah, I am wishing everyone an amazing year, 2025. And remember, new year, but same you that has gotten you through every single year of your life, and that will get you through the next year of your life. And even though I'm wishing you guys well for 2025, whatever happens, happens. And just know that whether you decide to do goals or not do goals, or you accomplish your goals or you didn't, that's all okay, because you are accepted for who you are as you exist in the world. Okay, bye guys.